Hello everyone, welcome back to my podcast. After the death of the God Emperor, the Ixians gradually became a main support of the Empire. They not only manufactured cost-effective no ships, but also equipped them with advanced navigation systems. These machines can travel between star systems using space-folding technology without relying on Spacing Guild navigators or spice, and they cannot be detected by prescient abilities. Since the death of the God Emperor, the spice-dependent economy collapsed, leading to a severe famine in the Empire. During this time, trillions of people left the Empire aboard Ixian no ships, heading into unknown space. These people are known as the Scattering. It has been 1,500 years since the God Emperor's death. Under the influence of sand trout, the planet Arrakis gradually returned to a desert state. Now, those who scattered are beginning to return to the Empire, bringing with them new technologies, food, and values. The returning Tleilaxu have brought new technologies and information to their leaders and have discovered a way to mass-produce spice, making sandworms almost irrelevant. Previously, the Tleilaxu face dancers were not perfect, and members of the Bene Gesserit and Reverend Mothers could identify them by their unique scent. But now, the disguise of the face dancers is nearly perfect, making them almost undetectable even to the Bene Gesserit. The new generation of face dancers can even access the memories of recently deceased individuals by touching their foreheads, making their impersonations almost indistinguishable from the original person. These face dancers soon began replacing leaders of various factions as part of the Tleilaxu's strategy to take control of the Empire. However, this plan ultimately failed because over time, the face dancers impersonating characters for long periods began to believe they were actually the individuals they mimicked. Many female descendants of Siona joined the Bene Gesserit and became Reverend Mothers. They recognized the importance of the Golden Path and believed that to prevent the Empire from falling under another tyrant, they needed to take a more active and aggressive approach in politics. Over the past 1,500 years, they have tirelessly maintained control over the remnants of the Empire. However, those who scattered into unknown space have returned, bringing their unique powers back to the Empire. The planet Gamu, traditionally a stronghold of the Harkonnen family, became a favored destination for these returnees. The vast wealth they brought with them rapidly developed the planet's financial sector. Among these returnees, the Honored Matres organization emerged as the most powerful. During the scattering period, the Bene Gesserit had sent many members to explore unknown space, but they were never heard from again. Despite this, there are many indications that some surviving members of the Bene Gesserit not only thrived, but also merged with other groups. The Honored Matres are a product of this merger, combining the Bene Gesserit with the Fish Speakers and other female organizations. They focus on conquest and rule, establishing vast territories and strong military bases outside the Empire. The most skilled in seduction and allure within the Bene Gesserit are known as imprinters. Men seduced by them are permanently marked and knowingly or unknowingly support the interests of the Bene Gesserit. For a long time, they have used this ability to attract individuals with power and superior genes to their breeding program. This deceptive method has allowed the Bene Gesserit to maintain their power base across various forces. In contrast, the Honored Matres are not satisfied with merely manipulating from behind the scenes. They seek absolute control over power, thus maximizing this ability to completely enslave their male targets. Upon their return to the Empire, they chose Gamu as their base and began to take control of more and more planets and organizations, including parts of the Tleilaxu, Ixians, and the Spacing Guild. For thousands of years, many of the Empire's place names have been shortened, including Arrakis, which eventually became known as Raucus. Today, Arrakis is controlled by a church that worships the divided God, descendants of the priests from Paul's religion. This church views Muad'Dib and his son Leto II as divine beings. They believe that upon his death, Leto II split into a sandworm and became Shai-Hulud. The church rules harshly, often sending people into the desert to be sacrificed to the sandworms. 3 years ago, a girl named Shiana Brew, who could control sandworms, appeared on Arrakis. She is a descendant of Siona and Duncan Idaho Gola. At 8 years old, she witnessed her village being destroyed by a sandworm, with her parents and villagers killed. Overwhelmed with grief and anger, Shiana ran towards the sandworm, but miraculously was not killed. Instead, she managed to command the sandworm. Shortly thereafter, the Church of the Divided God took her in. Since Leto II, Shiana became the first person able to control a sandworm. Gradually, the people of Arrakis stopped praying to the sandworms and the divided God and began worshipping Shiana. This news quickly reached the Bene Gesserit. On the planet Chapter House, the leader of the Bene Gesserit, Reverend Mother Superior Alma Mavis Taraza, believed the moment they had been waiting for had finally arrived. Taraza sent Reverend Mother Darwi Odrade to Arrakis secretly to ensure Shiana's safety and to recruit her into the Bene Gesserit when the time was right. She plans to use the girl to preserve a sandworm and use Duncan Idaho Gola as bait to lure the Honored Matres into destroying Arrakis, thereby freeing humanity from the God Emperor's bonds. Although God Emperor Leto II has died, his consciousness has dispersed into every sandworm and every sand trout, making the consciousness of the God Emperor a kind of oracle through the sandworms, firmly binding humanity to the path he predetermined. Killing most of the sandworms would weaken the influence generated by the God Emperor, preventing any single force from fully controlling all human futures. The Tleilax secretly modified Duncan Idaho Gola and then provided them to the Bene Gesserit for their breeding program. This model of Duncan Idaho Gola was cultivated by the God Emperor for 3,500 years and then taken over by the Bene Gesserit. Some Reverend Mothers worried that they might awaken another Kwisatz Haderach, a thought that caused quite a stir within the Bene Gesserit. Duncan Idaho Gola had been transformed into a humanoid recording device implanted within the Bene Gesserit. If the Tleilax got it, they could learn the secrets of the Bene Gesserit, so the Tleilax successively killed 11 Duncan Idaho Golas. Reverend Mother Superior Taraza, aiming to attract the attention of the Honored Matres, let them know that Tleilax had added some dangerous abilities to this Gola. When the last Duncan Idaho Gola reached the age of 12, he was taken to the main fortress of the Bene Gesserit on Gamu for training, and Supreme Bashar Miles Teg was sent to protect the safety of Duncan Idaho Gola. Bashar is a military rank from the Empire, derived from Arabic, equivalent to a brigadier general. Supreme Bashar is the highest commander of the Empire's military, equivalent to a marshal. Taraza also sent an imprinter, Reverend Mother Lucilla, to imprint Duncan Idaho Gola to ensure his loyalty to the Bene Gesserit. In the capital city of Bandalong on the planet Tleilax, Tleilaxu Master Tilwith Waf realized a divine revelation from a declaration. He decided to use the Atreides Manifesto to restore humanity's true faith, Zensuni. Waf and 9 other Tleilax masters have lived for thousands of years using Gola technology. Considering themselves the last scholars of Sharia law, known as Mashaykh. These 10 Mashaykh not only rule the Tlilax Empire, but also secretly act like religious leaders, similar to muftis. They are authoritative scholars of Sharia law with the power to issue religious decrees, a status far above that of grand mullahs and imams. 5,000 years ago, with the help of Leto II, the face dancer Skytale, who was killed by Paul, became the first Tlilax to be resurrected through Gola technology. After resurrection, he was promoted to a Tlilax master. When the Honored Matres returned to the empire, Skytale was the youngest and least experienced among the 10 Mashaykh. The Mashaykh had been hiding within the empire for thousands of years, intentionally creating a false image of the Tlilax as deceitful and incompetent. To them, the prophet Leto II was God's agent, and they saw themselves as messengers of God. In their first secret meeting with the Honored Matres, Waf successfully assassinated 2 Honored Matres and replaced them with face dancers. This successful encounter led the other Honored Matres to believe that the Tlilax had submitted. Shortly afterward, Shiana on Rakis was attacked by a face dancer, but the attack was thwarted by a Bene Gesserit undercover agent and Darwi Odrada. Odrad used this opportunity to begin training Shiana to become a member of the Bene Gesserit. Meanwhile, on the planet Gamu, Duncan Idaho Gola was attacked by a face dancer, but he escaped unharmed thanks to the successful protection of Miles Teg. Afterward, they took refuge in a no-ship built by the Harkonnen family thousands of years ago. Supreme Bashar Miles Teg, the father of Darwi Odrada, is a product of the Bene Gesserit breeding program and carries the Atreides family genes. He not only resembles Duke Leto in appearance, but also in his behavior. Inside the no-ship, Teg awakened Duncan Idaho Gola's original memories. Soon after, Teg and his group were ambushed again. With Teg's help, Lucilla and Duncan Idaho Gola managed to escape. During his captivity, Teg was tortured with a T-probe, which unexpectedly triggered his Atreides genetic potential. His physical abilities were significantly enhanced, and he even gained prescient abilities, allowing him to sense everything around him without needing to see. Teg easily broke free from his restraints, and with his enemies' movements appearing very slow to him, he easily defeated them and escaped. Reverend Mother Superior Taraza met with Waf, and the Bene Gesserit had already obtained information about face dancers infiltrating the ranks of the Honored Matres. Waf was forced to disclose his knowledge about the Honored Matres, and afterward, the two sides decided to join forces to counter the threat from the Honored Matres. As the meeting was about to conclude, Taraza inadvertently discovered that Waf was a Zen Sunni believer. Therefore, she invited Waf to travel to the Prophet's land, Rakis, for further negotiations, and relayed the information obtained to Odrad. On the planet Rakis, the high priest of the divided god, Tuek, was assassinated by Waf, and then a face dancer took his place. In the ensuing confrontation, Mother Superior Odrad made Waf believe that the Bene Gesserit shared their faith, leading to a fragile alliance between the Bene Gesserit, the Church of the Divided God, and the Tlilax, united in resistance against the threat from the Honored Matres. Odrad represented the Bene Gesserit in forming an alliance with the Tlilax, an action that shocked other members of the Bene Gesserit. Taraza hurried to Rakis to meet her close friend Odrad. Meanwhile, the fleeing Duncan Idaho Gola was ambushed on the road and taken hostage by the Honored Matres. Mother Lucilla, disguised as an Honored Matre, located the place where Duncan Idaho Gola was held, which was overseen by a young Honored Matre named Murbella. Murbella then invited Lucilla to watch her process of controlling Duncan Idaho Gola. However, the Tlilax had implanted a protective layer in Duncan's deep consciousness, which would be triggered if the Bene Gesserit tried to imprint him. At this moment, it was the Honored Matres who were trying to seduce Duncan, and the implanted consciousness was activated. Duncan then reversed the control and captured the Honored Matre Murbella. On the planet Rakis, Reverend Mother Superior Taraza was attacked by the Honored Matres. Subsequently, the Honored Matres quickly took control of most of the strategic locations on Rakis. Before her death, Taraza transferred her memories to Odrad, making her the new Reverend Mother Superior. Odrad and Shiana fled into the desert, riding a sandworm. Teg had understood all of Taraza's plans. While escaping, he killed an Honored Matre and slaughtered over 50 people. Ultimately, Teg gathered many of his former soldiers on the planet Gamu, hijacked a mothership, and headed to Rakis with Lucilla, Duncan Idaho Gola, and the captured Honored Matre Murbella. In his plan, their resistance was expected to provoke the wrath of the Honored Matres, especially when they learned that Duncan Idaho Gola was also on Rakis. The Honored Matres might then initiate a plan to turn Rakis into scorched earth. However, Teg believed that Duncan Idaho Gola's abilities would help them fight against the Honored Matres, so he no longer used him as bait. He found Odrad and Shiana in the desert and had them take a sandworm and Duncan Idaho Gola to the Bene Gesserit's secret headquarters, the planet Chapter House. Teg and his old subordinates stayed on Rakis to draw the Honored Matres' attention. In the end, the Honored Matres used their weapons to destroy all life on Rakis, killing Teg and his men. Waf and his face dancers also died in this attack. On the planet Chapter House, Odrad prepared to introduce the sandworm into water to become sand trout, expecting that in 1,000 years it would turn into another desert planet. All right, that's it for today's podcast. Thank you for listening and for your support through Super Thanks. Please subscribe if you are new here, and consider joining my members-only podcast. See you in the next episode.